Hi everyone, welcome back to Squares and Circles, the podcast where we transform growing pains into life gains. I'm your host Ellie, and I'm so excited to have you join me here on this journey. Here at Squares and Circles, we dive deep into the challenges and complexities of adulthood, whether you're 16 or 60, navigating major life transitions, or maybe you're just seeking a little more guidance on your journey. You're in the right place. From self-care and mental health to career development and personal growth, we cover it all. Now that we're in the full swing of autumn, I know I'm not the only one that has been dreading these darker nights and worse weather. So today I thought we'd get comfy. I'm in my hoodie and we can talk about how to conquer these darker nights and lack of sunshine, which are often accompanied by a lack of motivation, lower moods, and whatever fucking else winter brings to us. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing what I have learned through my research and also just my personal experiences over the years to help you overcome self-doubt and gain the confidence to thrive in adulthood so that you can reach your highest potential, even when things get tough. So get ready to level up with me. Let's turn those growing pains into life gains, laugh through the struggles, and embrace this wild journey. Let's dive in and grow through this together. Chapter 1. What's the big deal with the clocks changing? So let's talk about why the clocks changing has such a huge effect on us. When the clocks go back, it's usually in late autumn, and it can feel like a sudden switch from longer, lighter days to evenings where it gets dark before 5 p.m, which is like halfway through the day, in my opinion. And for a lot of people, this shift affects everything from sleep patterns to mood to motivation. And if you're prone to conditions like seasonal affective disorder, which is also conveniently acronymed SAD, the lack of sunlight can really mess with your mental health. Even if you don't struggle with SAD, the shorter days can still take a toll. I used to struggle with SAD a lot when I was younger, and significantly more when I was struggling with my mental health year round anyway. But since getting a little older and I've been healing from my mental health issues, I'm lucky enough to not really struggle with it so much anymore. But I do always feel a little more sluggish, a little less motivated to get things done, and I tend to lean more into hibernation mode. Instead of feeling energized by the day, I'm struggling to get out of bed in the mornings to seize the day, and I find myself counting down the hours until it's time to get back into bed. Hence why I'm filming this from my bed in my hoodie right now, because I just could not be bothered to set up a whole set. So I thought, it's fitting, it's fitting. Right, now, the science of it all. Scientifically, what's happening is that our bodies are responding to the change in the daylight. When it gets darker earlier, our brains produce more melatonin, which is the hormone that helps us sleep. This is why you might start feeling sleepy earlier than usual or feel like your energy just isn't where it normally is. On top of that, the lack of sunlight can really mess with our serotonin levels as well, which is a hormone that is closely linked to mood and well-being, which is why you might feel like shit as there's less daylight. The result of this may lead you to feel more lethargic, less motivated, and sometimes even a little bit down or anxious or severely depressed. This shift can also affect productivity. When it's dark outside, you might feel like the day is over before it actually really begins. I definitely struggle with this, and I've noticed that within the past couple of months, since the nights have started to get darker a bit earlier, my motivation and my mood shift from high motivating and the juicy zest for life that I had over the summer to having much less motivation and waking up way later than I usually do, struggling to get out of bed, and also just feeling like a lot more sensitive in general, a bit sad, a bit down, a bit poopy. And even when I do feel fine, I'm more susceptible to bad moods from little things that go on in my life, whereas in the summer I'm like, whatever, it's whatever. And now I drop something and I'm like, fuck, this is the end of my life. But maybe that is just me and I have something wrong with me, lol. But probably not. And if you do relate to this, then don't worry, because I have some good news for you. I've done my best to harness this change in season this year, and I've found that with a few adjustments to your routine and your mindset, you can still feel happy and energized and productive no matter how early the sun sets. Chapter 2. How do we harness this clock change? Okay, so now we've kind of talked about why the clock's changing can mess with our heads a bit, so let's get into some practical strategies for how to deal with it. I've come up with 7 tips to help you stay on top of your mental health, boost your productivity, and keep yourself feeling good, even as the days get darker. And these are things that have worked for me, so bear in mind they might not work for you or your routine or whatever, but just hear me out, alright? Let's dive in. Number 1 is get outside in the daylight every day. That is the one thing that's missing from summer that makes you feel so good and happy and uplifted and motivated that you don't get so much in winter. I know it sounds kind of obvious, but I didn't realise until I actually started doing it, and I was like, oh, It does kind of make a difference, actually. This is probably one of the most important ones on here, so that's why we're starting with this one. One of the biggest challenges when the clocks change is that we're not getting as much sunlight, and sunlight plays such a huge role in our energy levels and our mood. So whenever you can, try to get outside while the sun is out, even if it's cloudy, raining, whatever. Even if you just get out for 10 or 15 minutes, the sun can help boost your mood by increasing your vitamin D levels and helping you regulate your circadian rhythm. And I know that this tip is a really hard one to hear sometimes, especially if you're a person that has a routine that requires you to get up in the dark, leave your house in the dark, and then go to work and not get home until it's again dark. But if this is the case, try stepping out for a quick walk during your lunch break, or maybe eating your lunch outside, especially before it gets too fucking cold to like do anything outside ever. Or like even just try sit by the window for a bit, you know, because you're still getting the light whether you're inside or not, you know. It's better than nothing. I'm lucky enough to have the schedule and flexibility to be able to get out in the daylight most days, and I'm telling you this because I really notice a really huge difference in my mood and my mindset when I get myself outside versus when I don't. Even if this getting outside is literally just walking to the shop to get myself some lunch, you know? Sometimes I don't even realise I'm feeling a bit down one day, and then I'm like, oh, I need cheese, so I'm going to go to the shop and buy some cheese. So I walk to the shop, I get out in the daylight for like 20 minutes and I get my cheese and I come back and I'm like, oh, wow, I wonder why I feel so much better now. How bizarre. I love it when this happens because it just turns my day around without me even realising that I needed to do something to make my day better. I mean, on the days where I just feel super meh, not like bad, not good, but sometimes you don't realise you could have a better day than what you're having, and getting outside can really do that for you. It happens to me so often. However, if getting out in the daylight is really not a feasible option for you for whatever reason, then there are a couple other things that you can do instead that will give you the same effect. Getting outside isn't always possible, especially if you live in an area that's notorious for rain, like the UK, for example. And obviously you can still go out in the rain if you want, but I do understand that like you just don't want to a lot of the time. And it might actually make you in a worse mood than you were before if you don't want to be wet. Even though if you do go out in the rain, you'll still be getting the same effects because you'll still be getting the vitamin D because it's still daylight. Sometimes you just don't want to do that. One thing that you can do is consider buying a light therapy lamp. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I haven't actually tried one of these because, as I said, I'm lucky enough to be able to get out in the natural daylight. But after some research, I've found that these lamps can be a game changer because they mimic natural sunlight and can help you regulate your body's melatonin and serotonin levels, which can help improve both your sleep and your mood. I know it sounds kind of like a scam, but after reading loads of reviews and doing research on it, even just using these lamps for like 20 to 30 minutes in the morning can make a really big difference in how you feel throughout the day. And it doesn't have to take anything from your morning routine. You can still get up at the same time. You can literally just have it on while you're sat in bed for the first 20 minutes scrolling on your phone or doing your meditation or eating your breakfast or whatever you do that's a part of your morning routine. Just bring this little lamp around with you. This way you start your day with some well-balanced hormones which will help keep you more motivated and keep your moods up. You can also do this by taking vitamin D supplements if you'd rather do that, or you can use a combination of both. It's just about finding out what's best for you and what actually works for you. I've read a bunch of reviews from people who have tried both vitamin D lamps and vitamin D pills, and the general consensus is that they really do what they say they do, so consider this as an option if you can't get out in the natural daylight. Number 2 is stick to a routine, which I know it sucks, but you have to do it even if you don't bloody feel like it, alright? When it's darker outside, it is so easy to want to curl up in bed and skip your usual routine. I didn't know this was definitely the case for me. I used to wake up at 6 a.m. and I would consider the days that I woke up at like 8 a.m. as a lie, and I'd be like, I had such a lie today, I woke up at 8 a.m. Like, shut up, bitch. Because now, if I wake up at 8, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm seizing the day. Lord is good. I'm not even religious, but like, praise be to God. Because most days I struggle to get out of bed at like 10. So it's really, oh God, it's really fucked me up, guys. I'm not even gonna lie. At first, I was leaning into this the very wrong way and I was just letting myself sleep in. I wasn't holding myself accountable for any of the things that I needed to do to actually take care of myself. Like I wasn't doing my morning journaling, my meditation. I was sometimes not even brushing my teeth. So I was just skipping all the things that had become important in my morning routine in order for me to set myself up for a successful, productive, and most importantly, happy day. But I learned the hard way that doing this can actually make things a lot worse. As I said before, the darker nights may make you become more sleepy, so allow yourself the extra sleep. There is nothing wrong with that. You don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. if it feels like the middle of the bloody night. You especially don't have to do it just because you did it in summer. As we discussed, you might be more sleepy, so let your body have the rest that it deserves and requires, but still stick to a routine. And I'm not saying it has to be the same routine as your summer routine, because that is just not feasible. I'm saying just any routine, and this is most important with sleep and exercise. So going to bed at the same time every day, even if it's earlier or later than what you would do in the summer, and then same for your wake up time. So now I try and wake up at 9 every day because that feels doable, because my body really could sleep into 11, but I know that doesn't make me feel good. So I just try and go to sleep at like 11, 12 at night, and that's a good 9, 10 hours, isn't it? Whereas in the summer, I would only need like 7, 8 hours. So just listen to your body and how much sleep it actually needs, and make a routine that surrounds that. And I know you're going to hate me for this one, but do not skip your workouts. Exercise is a really great way to boost your energy levels and keep those feel-good endorphins flowing, even when you're not super motivated. This can be super hard in these winter months, but don't be scared of my use of the word workout. What I really mean by this is just moving your body in a way that feels good to you. So it doesn't have to be going to the gym and lifting the heaviest weights you can. It doesn't have to be going on a really long run and pushing yourself or doing a HIIT workout at home. It can literally just be like stretching your body, doing a gentle yoga routine, or like even just putting on your favorite music and dancing around your room. Like that's still exercise and that's still moving your body. Number 3 is to embrace your cozy evenings, but do it with a purpose. It is so tempting to go full hibernation mode when it gets dark out early, and that's so okay. There's something really lovely about cozying up with a blanket and a good book or a good TV show and a yummy dinner and a lovely cup of tea, but try and do this with intention. I found that the evenings that I let myself just do whatever and like bum out basically, I often not so much feel regret, but I always have a thought of like, oh, I could have done that last night, I was just being lazy. I don't know, it's just not very nice to feel like that. It's nice to feel like you've accomplished something with your day. So instead of mindlessly scrolling on your phone or watching TV for hours whilst thinking of all of the things that you should be doing, create a cozy evening routine that you actually look forward to. What I like to do is start by doing all of the things that I don't want to do that need to get done, so that they're all out of the way and you don't have to think about them and you can just rest without guilt. And it doesn't even have to be a super big task. Like I set myself usually an hour and I'm like, right, whatever I can get done in this hour, fantastic. And then I can go and sit in front of the TV and become one with my sofa for the evening. And this hour can also include like exercise, and it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be whatever amount of time suits you. I just tend to do an hour because that's what works for me. So usually in this hour, I do things like doing my laundry, the washing up. Sometimes I include making dinner in it if I can't be bothered to make myself a nice dinner. Sometimes it's just make my bed. Sometimes it's do some exercise. It really depends on the day, but whatever I feel like I need to get done that day, I do it in that hour. And then after this hour, you can light a candle, you can make yourself a nice cup of tea, get into your comfy clothes, and then you can unwind in a way that feels nourishing and not just numbing, because not that it's necessary to earn rest time, but for me, it was every night that I was just kind of numbing out and, you know, relaxing in that way, which just wasn't relaxing to me because I was thinking about all of the things I had to do. So doing it in this way, you do kind of feel a sense of accomplishment when you rest, and it's easier to just actually relax and not have to think about all of the things that you haven't done, because you have done some things. Even if it's not all of it, you've got some stuff ticked off your list, you know? And so you can relax without guilt or shame or beating yourself up, and it's actually healthy, nourishing, and relaxing and productive. It's literally the perfect combination. Number 4 is to stay connected with others. And this kind of might seem obvious, but when it gets darker, a lot of us tend to isolate ourselves without even realizing it. We cancel plans, we stay in more, we blame the weather, we blame the temperature, and it's just so easy for us to generally withdraw from society a little more. And whether it is because of the weather or just because we're feeling sad and we don't want to be around people, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this social withdrawal that happens when the clocks change. Whilst alone time is of course important, and you do have to still give yourself that, it's still important to make time for the people that make you feel good. Even if that's just for a phone call, staying socially connected can help combat feelings feelings of loneliness and boost your mood. And we talk about the importance of community and a support system so much on this podcast. And it's really important during times of low mood or bad mental health. And it's of course okay if you do feel like you want more alone time than you usually do. That's so of course fine. Give yourself that, but also make sure that you're holding yourself accountable when it comes to your social life, and make sure that you are not only just hanging out with your friends and your loved ones and your family, like for the sake of that you feel like you should, but also doing it for them. Like they also need the connection, and you don't want them to worry about you for withdrawing and isolating yourself when really you just need more alone time. So even if you do need more alone time, make sure you communicate that. Communicating it with your loved ones will help you to establish whether you actually need this alone time or whether you just want to be alone because you're sad or because you can't be bothered, you know? So it's very important to stay connected and utilize your support system that you have around you. Number 5 is to try some mood boosting foods. I think by now we all know that what you eat can play a really big role in how you feel, and not just physically but also mentally. In the darker months, it can be so tempting to eat just comforting foods, which for me anyway, they tend to be unhealthy. Like I eat a lot of cheese, I want a lot of like pizza and burgers and like wholesome, filling, hearty meals. However, although having these yummy, comforting foods isn't a bad thing, maybe try and monitor how often you're having these kinds of foods, and instead try to incorporate foods that are known to boost your moods, like leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and other foods that are rich in omega-3s. Foods like these can help regulate your brain chemistry and keep you feeling more balanced. I am absolutely not saying you should avoid comfort foods entirely. You will never catch me saying that, and you will never catch me not talking about my favourite comfort foods, because I'm such a foodie. I love food so much, and I love cheese, even though I'm like low-key lactose intolerant. Do I care? No, especially in winter. But anyway, little sidetrack there about my love for food. So yeah, I'm not saying that you should avoid comfort foods. I'm saying that it just needs to be about balance. And I know we hear this all the time, and it's so easy to get in summer, for me anyway. But in winter, I really struggle with the balance of it all, because I just want the yummy, comforting, warm foods. But you can literally try and balance out these comforting foods with more nourishing and nutrient-dense options that support your mental health. For example, you could just add some of these foods as a side dish to your like pizza, for example, or just snack on the more nourishing things like nuts and seeds and whatever, and then have your yummy comforting meals at dinner time. And of course, I know having a balanced diet is really important at any time of the year, but it's especially important at the time where our mental health are a bit more fragile. And when it comes to food, it's all about listening to what your body needs. And this can be challenging in itself, so if you don't know how to listen to your body, same. I am still working on this, but when I have more information, I will try and do a whole episode on it, because it is a really big thing that I'm working on right now. But just for now, really try and remember and draw it into your heads that no food is bad food, and try not to let yourself feel any guilt for what you are or aren't eating. Like, it's just food at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. If you feel like you shouldn't have eaten something, then like A, it's too late to go back and change it. B, like just try again next meal. It's whatever. It's literally just food, and your body needs it regardless of what it is. So just don't let yourself feel guilty, because it just doesn't fucking matter. It just doesn't. As long as you're eating, that's all that matters. Anyway, God, I could talk about that forever, so let's move on. Number 7 is to set small, achievable goals. And this is another thing we talk about all the time. But when it gets dark, you might feel like your productivity takes a bit of a nosedive. If you're anything like me, it's literally fine. I've been really struggling to get all the tasks done that I need to do. And this has kind of led to my to-do list being ginormous, which is kind of overwhelming. Or at least it was overwhelming at first. But when I started to notice this overwhelm and how I wasn't getting any of my tasks done, I realised I need to change my approach. So I kept my long to-do list in my notes, because deleting that would stress me out. But instead of working off of that for like the things I need to do each day, I broke down this list into sections. So for example, for me, I had like things I need to do for the podcast section, things I need to do for my health section, we're moving out, so things I need to do to move out section. You know, like I broke it all down into little sections. So all of the to-do list, yeah, sure, I had more to-do lists, and that might be a bit overwhelming. Each to-do list was smaller, so they felt a bit more achievable. Then I went through each of these to-do lists and broke down each task to the smallest smallest possible task it could be. So for example, on my moving out list, I had sort out all of my clothes and put them on Vinted. That is a huge fucking task. It's so stressful. So I broke it down into different to-do lists. One where I had to sort out my clothes. So sort out my rail, sort out my drawers, sort out my jumpers, sort out my accessories, sort out my jewelry, and that was then 5 separate tasks that I could tick off when I'd done them. And it wasn't just like do everything at once before I can tick one thing off. And then it was take photos of my tops, take photos of my trousers, take photos of my skirts, upload each one. I separated it as small as it could possibly be. And that made it so much more achievable because I've already done half of it. Not to brag, I've already done half of it. You can go look at my Vinted, Ellie Isaacs 2233. Please buy my stuff because we're moving soon and I want to get rid of it all. Anyway, little self-promo. And of course, doing this technically makes your to-do list longer, which again might seem like it would be overwhelming, but because all of the tasks are so small, they feel achievable, so you're not daunted by looking at it, so you don't just run away and avoid doing any of it, and you can tick things off more often, which for me anyway keeps me motivated because I'm like, oh, I can tick off this one, I can tick off this one. So yeah, make lists and make them as small as possible, break them down, make them into multiple lists so it's not so overwhelming, and you can even add things that are really simple tasks like brushing your teeth, showering, doing your laundry. I like to do that because it's stuff that I was probably going to do anyway because I have to, but ticking it off gets the ball rolling and I'm like, okay, so I've done my laundry, done my washing up, I've washed my face, I've brushed my teeth, I've had a shower, and now I need to do another thing on my to-do list, It just gets the ball rolling and starts the pattern. I don't know, it just really helps me for some reason. And also, of course, over time, all of these little tiny steps that you tick off of your to-do list will add up and become your whole to-do list, and you'll be able to go back to your original long, daunting to-do list and start to tick things off one by one. Also, another thing to note with this, before we move on to the next one, is don't beat yourself up even if you don't do the things on your to-do list, because it's hard to get the motivation. So be kind to yourself, listen to your body. If you need to rest, rest. If you don't feel like doing the things on your to-do list, do something else. It's literally not a big deal. On to number 7, our final piece of advice for this episode. Can you guess what it is? I bet you can. It's fucking gratitude. Of course it's gratitude. Be grateful. And I know you're thinking, oh my god, Ellie, talking about gratitude again. Who would have fucking thought? Yeah, I know. I know I don't shut up about this topic, and it's because it's so important and it's genuinely changed my fucking life. It's so powerful, and implementing this practice into my life on a daily basis has truly changed my mindset and my thought processes and the way that I look at life, and it's just made my life so much better. And I'm not even being dramatic for once in my life, alright? So I will never shut up about gratitude, and you should never stop listening to me about gratitude. Sorry, that was really aggressive. I'm just really passionate about gratitude, guys, okay? It's just such an amazing tool that we don't take advantage of enough, do we? So why would I ever stop talking about it? When the days are darker and colder, it's so easy to focus on what's missing. So the sunlight, the warmth, energy, beer gardens, dinners outside with your friends, like whatever it is, people will tend to focus on what's missing and what they miss about summer. But practicing gratitude can help shift your mindset to focus on the positive. So try writing down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. No matter how small, it can literally be, I'm grateful for the hot cup of coffee I had this morning. I'm grateful for my really soft blanket that was keeping me cozy this evening. I'm grateful for my 5-minute walk to work where I got to be in the sun for 5 minutes. Or like outside at least, even if the sun isn't out. Shifting your focus to the things that bring you joy can really lift your mood. I found that writing down the things that I was grateful for was a really good way to get myself into the habit of practicing and thinking about gratitude every single day. But because I've done it for so long now, I don't necessarily have to write them down. Sometimes I still do, but you do eventually get to the point where you don't have to write them down. You can just walk around and be like, wow, that's such a beautiful tree. I'm so grateful for the tree, And the more you practice as well, the more things you find to be grateful for, which is just so beautiful, because sometimes I'll be thinking about the things I'm grateful for and I'm like, wait, I just take that for granted every single day, which is crazy, but I'm actually so grateful for it. Like water is a huge one that I've been so grateful for lately because I just take it for granted. I'm very lucky to have access to free running water. I always have had. But recently I've just been like, damn, I actually it is my favourite beverage. I'm sorry to be that bitch, but I do love water. I'm not even sorry to be that bitch. I take that back because water is just fucking amazing. It's so incredible. And I've just been so grateful about it. But my point is, the more you're grateful, the more things you find to be grateful for. I've also recently realized how much the power of gratitude can change your life, especially when you're going through a tough time. Like recently, I'm not going to get into it. I've been recently going through some pretty rough personal stuff. But I also realized that a year ago, if I was to go through what I'm going through now, my mental health would have plummeted. I would not have been able to deal with it. I wouldn't have known how to deal with it. And like, sure, I have troubles dealing with it sometimes, but like, it's whatever. But the main point is, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it because I knew I would have focused on and ruminated over the situation until it broke me down. The only thing that's different about my approach to this situation compared to my previous adversities, which I would argue were actually all way easier than what I'm going through now, is that I'm not actually focusing on the situation and everything that's bad about it anymore. I'm instead focusing on the lessons it's teaching me and the opportunities it's opening up for me, the ways that I grow from it, and the ways in which this situation can make me a better person, and I'm using it to my advantage to then become the person I want to become, if that makes sense. And also expressing gratitude for the situation, for bringing me all of these things, rather than expressing dismay and despair for all of the negative things this situation is bringing me. So all of that just to tell you that I've learned firsthand how gratitude can change your life, and this is just the perfect example of it, because without it, I honestly probably wouldn't be here making this podcast right now. Not in like too dark of a way, but like I would just be too sad, and I wouldn't feel like I have it in me to then inspire people to better themselves because I would be in such a dark place. So gratitude really is the best medicine. So, and focusing on and being grateful for the things about these colder, darker months, such as Halloween and Christmas and yummy warming soups, and being able to layer your outfits without overheating or whatever else it is you love about winter and autumn. There's actually so much to love about it, and like I'm sure you can find something if you think hard enough. So figure out what it is and embrace it and focus on that rather than pining over summer, because it will come back. But right now we're in winter, so embrace it. Chapter 3: Actionable Steps. Now that we've covered those 7 tips, let's talk about how we can put them into action. Here are some steps you can start taking right now to make the most of the darker days and keep your mental health and productivity in check. Number 1, we've already spoken about. Start your day with light. Open your curtains as soon as you wake up, and if possible, spend a few minutes out in the morning light. If that's not an option, consider investing in a lamp or vitamin D supplements to mimic the sunlight and the effect that the sunlight has on you. And you can get them for as cheap as like £20 on Amazon. And it might just change your life. Number 2, create a winter-friendly routine. Adjust your daily routine to fit into the darker days. Schedule more outdoor time during daylight hours if possible, and plan cozy, intentional downtime in the evenings. And adjust your sleep schedule to better suit the amount of sleep your body needs so you don't wake up every day feeling bloody exhausted. Number 3 is to keep moving. Set a goal to stay active, even if it's just a short walk or a quick workout at home or some yoga or dancing around your room, like I said, because we all know exercise boosts your mood and it helps combat those winter blues. Number 4 is to check in with yourself. Regularly reflect on how you're feeling, whether it's through meditation or journaling or just thinking to yourself. If you're starting to feel down or unmotivated, try revisiting some of these tips and adjust your routine as needed. Number 5 is to stay social. Make an effort to connect with family and friends regularly, even if it's just a quick check-in. Social connection is crucial for our mental health, especially as it gets darker and our minds start to go downhill a little. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways. The first one is to remember that it's completely normal to feel a little off when the clocks change and the days get shorter. It is change, and humans by nature do not like change, even if it does happen every year. Be kind to yourself during this transition and recognize that it's okay to slow down. Secondly, small adjustments to your routine can make a big difference, whether it's getting more daylight, practicing more self-care, or connecting with others. And finally, don't underestimate the power of creating cozy, intentional moments that bring you joy. Winter can be so challenging, but it can also be an opportunity to recharge, reflect, and prioritize your well-being before we enter into a new year. And that is everything for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Squares and Circles. I really hope these tips help you to navigate the darker days with a little more ease and a lot more joy. Remember, it's all about balance, finding ways to stay productive, but also giving yourself permission to slow down and enjoy the cozy moment. If you like this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who could use a little extra light in their life, share this episode with them. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and wherever else you hang out online. You can find all of our links in the description. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate it. And until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!